everybody on the stage here has been a part of the Peanut Leadership Academy. Garrett Moore, who's sitting closest to me, he went through our last program, so he graduated last summer. And the other three are in the class currently. So they're getting ready to attend their third session in Texas here in just a few weeks. So I've got some questions I'm going to go through with them. We'll just kind of popcorn it here. But first, I want everybody just to tell us a little bit about who you are, introduce yourself, your operation, and your role on your farm. And we'll just start with you, Garrett, and work our way down.
I'm Garrett Moore. I'm from Coffee County, predominantly Coffee County, Alabama. We farm in Geneva County. Graduated high school in 2014, spent 4 years in the Marines, and come home and started farming. We started very small with 13 acres. My dad had 15, I had 13. Since then, we're at 2,200 acres. I met my beautiful wife back there who's probably trying to hide. We have a 2-year-old and another one on the way, and we've also diversified in the past 2 years with getting chicken houses and some cows and try to, help sustain the farm.
My name is Jeffery Pittman. I'm from Baskin, Florida. I grow 300 acres of peanuts, 100 acres of cotton, and farm alongside my father there in Jackson County. I have 3 beautiful children, Jessie, Anna Claire, and Laura Kate, and my wife, Abby.
Good morning. My name is Katherine Harrington. I'm from Bamberg County, South Carolina. My husband, Madison, and I farm our operation, Harrington Farms, there in Bamberg County, where we grow cotton and peanuts. We have 2 little boys, Baker and Brooks, who are 4 and 18 months. And alongside the farm, I work in crop insurance as an agent, and my husband also works for South Carolina Forestry Commission. So we have 2 jobs outside the farm to keep it afloat.
Good morning, I'm Adam Curls. I'm in Mitchell County, Georgia, which is the city of Pelham, kind of the southwest corner of the state. I'm 5th generation. I work alongside with my dad. My dad is still part of the operation. I have a wife and 2 children. We grow all row crops. We have peanuts, cotton, and corn currently. And I graduated from ABAC 2014. So.
All right, so when we think about getting started as a young producer, what was the biggest challenge in establishing yourself within the operation? Jeffrey, why don't you go first?
Well, the biggest thing, I guess, was just trying to get the lender to lend money and finding a chemical company that carried me through the year, and just trying to get my roots settled, trying to get my feet on the ground and running.
Does anybody else have something different?
Mine's predominantly the same, and one thing I struggled with was trying to manage health. I was young, and a lot of people were older than me, and they had a lot more experience than I did, but trying to learn from them and then just manage it. Now, people laugh at me all the time, but I tell people it's like a baseball team. Everybody, you find these guys, you figure out what they're really good at, keep them in that position, and it just seems to work a lot better for us.
I'd say that finding land to farm was probably one of the biggest holdups. But that kind of came in God's timing, not mine. So it worked out as it needed to. If y'all realize, farmers don't ever retire, so land changing hands it kind of turns into the next generation or halfway through their career before a lot of times land changes. So that was a big drawback.
For me, on my operation, my dad is one of the very few that actually did retire from farming. Having a retirement party for him, I had to create an invitation because they don't have a generic version of a farmer retirement party. Nobody really retires in farming, but for us that was the case. We kind of came in alongside my dad on our operation upon graduating from Clemson, and like Jeffrey said, finding a lender that trusts you at 22 years old to lend a bunch of money and pay back at the end of the year is tough. So coming in little by little, picking up acreage, kind of helped them see that we could make the yield to pay back the loan that we had, and that was definitely a process for us, but it built a lot of rapport with the banks and the crop insurance liens, especially without having the equipment and capital, the assets and capital to back your loan. Crop insurance has been a big thing for us, and the bank's trusting us.
What's something you've learned in the last 5 years that's changed the way you farm peanuts? Anyone want to volunteer?
I can say this, well, I don't know if we have any extension guys in the room, but spray for lesser corn salt more no matter what. That you ever have an outbreak, you don't forget that. But one thing that I can say that I've done is I started growing some longer season varieties like Georgia 12Y, and I plant them early, and it's allowed me to they've got a little better disease resistance, and I'm able to plant them early and go right into planting my mid-maturing varieties, and I can take advantage of moisture levels at that time because I'm a large portion of dryland acres, so I can plant a bulk of the crop at one time, and that's really helped me to be able to kind of get a head start. And then we, after we get into the mid-May planted stuff, we can start planning out when those peanuts are going to be dug. So we have to plan a little bit more after that. But that's helped me be able to take care of that limiting factor of moisture, is getting that longer season variety in early.
Anybody else want to answer? If you don't, it's okay.
Mine's pretty similar to that. Different varieties, trying to find the varieties that, kind of space out, harvest a little bit in planting, and find the right variety for the right dirt. Also, I had been farming along with GPS. We planted 12 lives about 3 or 4 years ago, and I bought GPS the next year because I said I'd never do that again. That was terrible. So.
All right. What is one farm investment that paid off and one that did not?
One thing that's paid off really for me a lot is my purchasing a semi-truck and going into the semi-dryer wagons and semi-dryers. That's really been a big deal for me. Be able to move the tonnage, not have the liability of all the wagons on the road. If you put 7 small wagons in one semi-trailer. It's been a really big thing for me.
For us, it's really irrigation, long-term investment. There's a lot of things we can't control in farming, and one of those is the weather. So just being able to cut out a little bit more of a risk has been a blessing.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got a couple, I guess. Irrigation has definitely been my goal ever since I got out of college, was to keep adding as many as I could, but we don't have very good water where I live, and it's expensive. And if y'all know, in the past 5 years, everything's way more than it was. So being able to make $400 peanuts work in $100,000 wells are pretty tough. So just little pieces at the time on irrigation, trying to improve there. But also for peanuts, for me, it's been the flex plow. I live in an area where we have a lot of rolling land, and there was fields that Dad wouldn't even plant in peanuts when I was younger, because he didn't have a way to invert them without making a mess, and the flex plow has definitely helped me out a lot.
I can definitely agree with that. Another thing is a good sprayer, because I don't know if any of y'all have ever had this trouble, but when you need it the most, it's going to break down, and then the weeds that were this big that you could kill are now this big, and you stare at them for the rest of the year. So that's another one.
Did y'all have anything that hasn't paid off?
That
you-
Nothing I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. All right, what new technology, equipment, or management practice do you see coming that you believe might have a fit on your farm?
I would say drone. This year alone, we had to hire a neighbor spray 500 acres for us. That gets pretty costly. Another thing is irrigation. And I wrote down, I forgot that KFC had made this, but we seen this when we went up there. But the Pod Pro Peanut Yield Monitor, a few years ago, I'd done some research and found something that's called Farm Wave, where they do it on combines. But it uses AI imagery, and it takes like 500 pictures a second, and it monitors your yield, your loss, and everything as you go across the field. And I think that'd be substantial to have.
Yeah, I'm going to marry that with the drones. That's going to be you're going to look into that pretty serious the next couple of years.
think AI is something that has a lot of untapped potential, especially in the office management organization side of things, with planting dates and fields, and being able to analyze yield data at the end of the year. AI scares me a little bit because sometimes I think we can lean in it too hard, and it may not always be accurate at the end of the day. But I think if you spend the time on it, it'll be really helpful. The good thing about AI is it's not going to take our job as a farmer, but if we are willing to use it, it can make good farmers great farmers.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mirror that with AI a little bit. You know, I don't like the idea of AI. I'm afraid it's gonna make us, it's gonna take our ability to think away. But there is, you know, I have a good friend that has played around with just free tools here recently with taking yield data and history from the farm that he has. He has spreadsheets and whatnot. He's plugged it into an AI source, and just the amount of information that it spits back out is almost a mirror image of what he sees in his fields, what his experience is there. And to me, that blew me away that it was that close in the beginning stages of it. So I do believe there is untapped potential there to go into the precision technology that can really improve some of this precision technology, whether it be variable rating or some sort of variable rate applications with planting or spreading or spraying or anything like that. There's just a lot of untapped potential there, and I believe that we need to embrace it to a degree, but we don't need to rely on it. I know the data center talk has become a hot topic everywhere, and whether you're on either spectrum of that, it's coming whether we like it or not, and we have to be able to use that tool, I'm afraid, unfortunately.
What was that AI source? Do you know?
Claude that he used. Claude, yeah, Claude AI. There's several different other ones, but I do believe there's potential there. So we need to be willing to at least look into it.
How are you approaching some of today's challenges, whether that's labor input costs, weather variability, land access, or profitability?
I can say that we are actually paying more for labor, trying to compete with some of these local jobs. It's hard to find people that want to work, hours of work. I tell people all the time, it's not always hard work, but it's work all the time. I mean, it never stops. And really tightening up our budget. We use this thing called a profit manager. It comes from a guy out west, and it's a program that we can put all of our inputs and everything in it, it'll dial it down and help you, watch your profit margins and kind of give you some tools on what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
I think on our operation, some of our stuff is a little overkill because finding good labor around us is really hard. So between me and my husband and some seasonal help at harvest, we'll have some people hop in. But for the most part, we want to be able to get across the acres when we need to. So the bigger sprayer, the bigger planter, just trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. And sometimes me and my husband are at fault for this, but we have a hard time asking for help. So
Keeping the debt ratio down, that's got to be the first thing Dad always taught me. He said, "Get it paid off quick, son," because you don't want to let the interest eat you alive. And to me, that's one of the things that we need to be buying as little as necessary. There's always something. There's always a salesman that's got a good idea. Well, it's his best interest, not yours.
Sure.
But that, and also, to mimic a little bit about what the guys this morning talked about with managing risk, crop insurance. There is it's changed so much in the past 5 years. There's so many other little supplemental policies that are going to pay off of different factors that are not involved in your operation so much. You have a tiny portion of influence on it, but there's a lot of little things there that we really need to be trying to buy. You can look at the historical data on some of that, on what is paid here, or what factors would have came into play in paying it before it was implemented. Just looking at those policies, we need to really be insuring ourselves against more more just a probability of them paying versus just insuring ourselves through a multi-peril policy. So I asked that question this morning, and near about every one of those guys that were in the efficiency winners, they all said very similar responses.
How do you balance trying new things and managing the risk?
Let my neighbor do it first.
Very carefully.
Yeah, very carefully. Honestly, we just do all like small on-farm trials and just kind of just watch it all year long and see how it's going to do. Because everybody in this farm knows if you mess up one time, you're stuck with it all year long. And it's by the road. It's never off where somebody can't see it. I mean, it's by the road.
Yeah, very carefully and you know, not risking more than what you can afford to lose. That's what I think is trying to do that.
All right, looking ahead, what's one thing you're doing now to position your farm for success over the next 10 to 20 years?
Diversification, chicken houses, and just cows.
Really adding to the land we farm, we own, upgrading our pivots every chance we get, whether that mean, you know, redoing wells or new sprinkler packages, or trying to get the technology on the pivots. That way we don't have to have a 4-hour circle of checking pivots every day. We can be a little more effective with our time.
Honestly, it's taking care of what we got right now because we're not in the business of buying new at the moment. But as we all know, farming's a roller coaster, and we're on the downhill side of it right now. It's going to turn back up. So right now we're just, 10 years from now, definitely 5 to 10 years from now, I want to be able to diversify a little bit and do some more farm-to-table type things on our operation. But for now, we're hanging on and being as conservative as possible.
I would say being careful when cutting corners. I'm always, farming's about 100% problem solving every day. If you can problem solve, you can get very far in life. But just not cutting corners. I think about any time we have a new project, irrigation projects come to mind first. When you're building something, you think about what you want it to be like in 30 years. Obviously things aren't going to last that long, but if you can spend just a little bit more money to not have to fix it in 5 years. So it's spend a little bit more to make your life easier in the long term.
This might not be something you have thought about, but maybe if you're farming with family as well, do you have a transition plan in place for your farm, or is that something you've started to talk about or think about or plan for?
It is something I've thought about. I do not have one, but and just about every day I look at my son, I think about it because he's 2.5 years old, and I can already see he's eat up with it. He loves farming, tractors, and tools, and I think about it often that I do need to implement something to benefit them. I've heard a lot of stories, and not from around here, but from out west, where people, you got 4 kids, one worked on the farm their whole life, and then the other 3 moved off, and then the guy dies, and this one guy's got about the other 3, well, they can't afford to do it, so they got to sell the whole farm. I'd hate to see that happen.
Yeah, very much so. Not at the moment, but like when I'm married him, he's gonna, it's to come. I need to start thinking about that sooner than later for sure.
We've kind of just gone through that process in the past 5 years with my dad retiring, so we've learned a lot from his succession plan of what we want to do with ours and what we don't want to do with ours. So it's very different from the plan he had from his father, and so we're learning a lot, and we want to be able to set our kids up the best way we can as well.
Well, my kids are too young right now to really know if they're going to have anything to do with the farm, but I believe that I really just want them to be able to appreciate it. Even if they don't farm, I want them to appreciate that it took a lot of time to get there. It took a lot of money and investment, and a lot of effort got it to that point. From my dad, my granddad, great grandfathers, So I just want them to appreciate it more. I've been thinking more in that line. I don't say I have a plan yet, but it is on my mind to try to maybe put some legal things on in legal paper, with lawyers and stuff, and just try to have some goals set whenever if something did happen to me. I do want to plan for that. I've seen neighboring operations that someone passed away, and it was a it was a big deal to try to work through that situation. So we really need to be realizing that we aren't guaranteed tomorrow, and we need to have things ready so they can take care of the farm and keep going.
How important are relationships to your operation's success, whether that be with lenders, landlords, extension personnel, or industry partners?
I think they're very, very important. Honestly, every check that I can, I deliver it hand to myself to build up relationships with them, tell them how much I approve them. Even like chemical companies and these tractor companies, I mean, if you call them, talk to them and just get to know them, and it's on the good years it's great. You can give them the check and shake hands and talk about some good stories, and then on the bad years you got to explain to them, well, I can't get it this month, but I'll get you next month, and it's good to build that relationship and let them know they can count on you.
Relationships, everything, especially with your lenders and pretty much everybody that you work with. If I have a landlord that's not happy, more than likely they could be looking for somebody else to tend their farm next year. So having a good, healthy relationship with your banker, with your chemical companies, is very important for me, for sure.
Relationships are everything. The saying, "It ain't what you know, it's who you know," is a huge, huge deal, especially in farming. And learn a lot from my crop insurance job, talking to other farmers about how they do what they do. Learn a lot just standing on the side of the road talking to people and being able to bring things back to our farm that'll help us out as well. So yeah, nobody can farm on their own. I mean, you can grow the seed and I guess plant it again next year, but there's a lot more that goes in the crop than just what you do.
Yeah, relationships are everything for sure. I agree with several points there. Jeffrey talking about the people you bank with, you rent land from as well. If we don't have the land to work, then we don't have anything. So that can change overnight. So having good relationships with people and just being honest and upfront with people, that goes a long ways. But I'd say my biggest piece of advice that I think there is just pay your bills on time. I think that helps more than anything. That just builds your relationship.
If you could give one piece of advice to a young person wanting to come back to the farm, what would it be?
My opinion is find somebody that's doing it really well and try to work with them and learn from them. When I started, there's a lot of people that didn't really want to help me, and I couldn't figure out why, but I think later on, I don't know if they didn't want to mislead me or if they were scared that we'd end up being competition. I don't know, but I did find several people that would, and I still value them to this day. Watching them and seeing what they do and just, learning from their mistakes, because these mistakes are costly and it's hard to overcome.
Make sure you fully understand what you're getting into. The long hours, the sleepless nights, the uncertainty of the weather. Just really, really have it right in your heart and with the good Lord, that's what you want to do. Fully understand what you're really getting into.
I have two of them. One of them is don't be scared to say yes when people ask you to do something. Like honestly, I'm scared to death up here right now, but here I am doing this because I do think it's important. But just getting involved when people ask you to. Sometimes you may not think you're able to do it or you should be the one doing it, but the person asking you knows what they're doing. So that's one piece. The other piece is, especially if you're somebody coming back to an operation, don't think you just deserve to be there. You have to earn your spot because that person that's passing that farm down to you, while they may be obligated to do so, they need to know they're giving it to the right person to take care of going forward. And you're not, go above and beyond. It might not be paid for at that time, but it's going to return to you eventually. You're not going to climb the ladder sitting on the bottom step. So go above and beyond, and it'll come back to you.
I'm going to say you really have to grow close to the Lord. If you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you're not going to get very far. When times get tough, you've got to have something that you can lean on. And this, for me, it's been just having faith. And if you're not cultivating that relationship with Him, then when you're going to have a mental breakdown when everything breaks at one time, because it will. I promise you, it's going to, and it's going to happen several times a year. So you have to have a very, very strong faith, and you have to continue to work at that. We're not going to figure that all out initially. It takes a lifetime of that.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Okay, John?
As a farmer that y'all would probably be looking at, the land might be available for rent pretty soon because of my white hair. I have a son that came back to the farm, and I question a lot that I make the right decision for him, because of the way things are. And I know there's a lot of opportunity in some areas, in ours it's not so much without paying so much high rent. And I'm not very good with a computer, but I'm pretty good with a pencil, and if it don't pencil out on paper, it don't usually work out in the field. Are any of y'all did not have family, y'all came back to a family farm and started on your own, or you all came back to a family farm that allowed you to grow into it, and I know in my case, we've done everything, my brother and me farmed together, we've done everything to try to make my son successful and to carry on this farm. But it's going to be up to him before it's over with. But did any of y'all just start on your own, or all y'all had family you came back to?
I'm the 5th generation of us to farm there in Lovedale. So I've pretty much been farming 35 years old. I've been farming for probably 34, 35. So
I would probably fall in the category of my dad was a truck driver growing up, and I always farmed a little bit. And when I come home from the Marine Corps, he had 15 acres and a full steady job on Fort Rooker. We had 2 tractors, and I went 15 miles across town to rent my grandmother's 13 acres that had been in pasture forever. I pretty much kind of started like that with next to nothing. When I went to the bank, I had literally a pen and paper and a game plan. That's another piece of advice. Come up with a good game plan and talk to somebody, because I had no clue what I was doing, and nothing that I wrote down penciled out. And that, but it's it can be done. It takes a lot of structure, prayer, the good Lord, absolutely. But it can be done, and the success of it, like you were saying earlier, it's just, we're on the downside at the moment, but I know it's going to come back around. It's got to. There's no other choice, or a lot of us ain't going to be here.
I'm the 6th generation of my operation. My husband, however, is a 1st generation farmer. He grew up moving around with a dad that worked in hospital systems. So him coming in, he has different ideas and different ways of doing things. And I truly believe the Lord didn't give my dad a son for a reason. And so that's been a blessing to kind of have that divide. But I have a sister that is a hairdresser that wanted nothing to do with the farm, but as far as succession planning wise, my dad and my granddad, who is still here, he's 92, they have things set up in a unique way, but the saying is fair ain't even and even ain't fair, so it's their version of fair. And so, we're rolling with the cards we've been dealt, and we're handling it.
Yes, sir. I'm very privileged to be able to be back in a family farm. And I'm also privileged to be able to operate the farm the way that I want to going forward. My dad has allowed me to be able to run it the way I feel like the direction we need to go from my perspective. I know several generational farms talking, I've heard that there's kind of been a theme. You talk to other farmers talking about dealing with stress and stuff. I talk to a lot of different friends that farm and on a daily basis, and sometimes it can be, well, they're aggravated that they can't do this because they want to do that, and so I'm just privileged that I'm able to run the operation the way I want to. My dad sees that it's my turn to take it, and he's allowing me to do that, and that can be a little bit of a challenge for some people, is not being able to run the farm the way they want to. So.
Anybody else got any questions? Michael?
How can we attract more young people to agriculture that are good, steadfast folks that want to be involved, whether it's farming or work for an ag service provider or whatever it may be? I think, that's really the future moving forward is bringing some folks in that are going to be dedicated to it in some capacity. So how can we do that?
We got to figure out how to make farming fun again.
That's what I was gonna say. I said, we got to find something to get them to be attracted to, because half of us in here are crazy. We're doing what we do. I mean, farming, I know in my area, there's at least 6 farmers, big, successful farmers on a lot of land, or farm a lot of land, that within the next 5-10 years are not gonna be farming. They're either retired or pass away. And me and like the other 3 people that are farming in our area that are younger, we can't farm all of it. And we need to bring people into to the industry. And it needs to be an industry worth coming into.
We got to make farming profitable again. I'm not gonna, the fun part is why I do it, because I think all of us like working on equipment. That's the reason why we started farming. But we got to make it profitable again. There's one thing that I do have the most concern over right now is land ownership. These land prices are outrageous, what it's selling for, and with the introduction of selling land online now through online auctions and all, there's no way we can grow $400, $500 ton peanuts and pay for land that way, unless if there's a banker in here that will write me a loan for 50 years, I'd like to talk to you before I leave, because that's the only way it's going to pencil out. And so we've got to make it profitable again, and that is a huge concern for me. And we all know that at the end of the day, money talks. We can say that we want to keep the land going to another generation that's going to farm it, but most of us in here that own land, that if we're in the driver's seat to retiring right now and would be willing to sell, would you really sell it to a guy that's going to farm it, or would you sell it to a guy that's going to develop it and give you the max dollar for it? To me, that's where we've got to figure out which direction we want to be. So we all know money always talks, and that's a huge limiting factor for the next generation comes in.